A very good afternoon to all our viewers. Welcome to the YouTube channel Skepta. I'm your host, Dr. Mani Iyer. Before we start, I request all of you to please subscribe this channel, Skepta, and like the video, and also put the button on for notifications so you can receive notification in future of any broadcast. So now getting back to the topic, we are living through a strange contradiction. We are more connected than any generation in history, a message away from hundreds of people, a scroll away from thousands more, and yet so many of us feel lonelier than ever. Maybe you have felt it too, sitting in a room full of people, surrounded by conversation, and still feeling completely alone. Or maybe you have felt safer, more understood, opening up to a stranger online than to the people who have known you for years. So, if any of that sounds familiar, tonight is for you because belonging was never really about how many people are around us. It's about whether we feel truly seen by them. Tonight we are unpacking why connection feels so hard to find in a hyper connected world, and more importantly, how to actually build it back. So, to talk about this, I'm thrilled to introduce Miss Varshini Maria ji, who is a counseling psychologist registered with the National Health Authority and the founder of the Counseling to Progress company. She holds a degree in MSc in Counseling Psychology from the University of Madras, along with a postgraduate diploma in counseling and psychotherapy. Her work draws on CBT, mindfulness, and humanistic approaches with hands on experience across employee well being programs, hospital based counseling, and one on one therapeutic work, supporting people through anxiety, depression, trauma, and relationship challenges. She's going to walk through us through exactly how to do that starting now. So over to you. Welcome to the program, Ms. Varshini Maria ji. And yeah, over to you. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Maniji. So, I would just like to ask everybody on a scale of 1 to 5, how connected do you feel to the people around you right now? Why belonging feels harder today is something that we are going to discuss. The loneliness paradox, more digital contact, less felt connection among people around us. There could have also been modern life factors, for example, remote work, mobility, smaller family units, performative social media. From a psychological angle, belonging is in proximity. It is felt safety, feeling the sense of secure, and being known and still accepted for who you are. So, there are a few building blocks of a real connection, which also emphasize on your attachment styles as a lens of why connection feels different for everybody. By attachment styles, you might wonder, what do I actually mean? So, you might have had an anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and a secure attachment showing up in your friendships or within your family, not only romance. So, when we're talking about this as a whole, of why you feel lonely,
Light on.
especially when you're surrounded by people. So, as we're talking about a few minutes here, Maniji and me would be decoding a few questions that have been frequently asked by the audience. So, yes, Maniji, let's start with a
Yeah,
few.
yes. So the first question I would like to start with is why do I feel lonely even when I'm surrounded by people? At work, at family gatherings, even at parties?
So loneliness isn't just about how many people are physically near you or around you. It's more about emotional visibility. You can spend hours around your coworkers, your family, or your friends and still feel unseen or unheard if the conversations are surface level. So the real belonging happens when someone knows the parts of you that aren't performed, your doubts, your quirks, your actual state of mind. Without that, a crowded room can also feel just as isolating as an empty one. Yes, Manish?
Yeah, so in that case, when sometimes in those parties or in even in suppose in a train travel or anywhere else, I feel closer to a stranger who is either online or who's sitting through with me through the train journey, and or who I somebody whom I just met in a party, and we are sitting in a corner and talking to each other. So I feel closer to them than to people who have known me for years. What is this? I mean, this is something I cannot ponder. I'm not able to understand. So maybe you can put some light on it.
Sure, Manishi. So it's completely normal and there is a psychological reason for it. So with someone new, especially someone online, there is no shared history that could be used against you. No fear of disappointing someone whose opinion of you matters. Because here there is nothing to lose. This particular feeling makes vulnerability even more easier. And ironically, sometimes it's easier with people who you've not known and you do not have a history with than the people who really know you. Yes, Maniji?
Yeah, that answers for that question. So also, I wanted to another follow up. Why does making new friends feel so much harder than it did as when I was a kid or a school kid or a teenager?
That's a fair question. Because as children, connection was almost automatic. You saw the same classmates every day, sat near them, enjoyed the same activities without choosing to. And that repeated low effort contact built a sense of familiarity over time. And now, as adults, that structure disappears. We move to new cities, change careers, and lose the built in repetition, right? So, friendships now require a deliberate effort, scheduling your calls, and a risk that was used than when it was at that time. So, by risk, what I mean to say is everyone is occupied with their own career, with their own lifestyle, and their own families, building it on their own. And now, if there is a misplacement of a small little thing that could have not been as the share interest before, it could lead to a risk of the friendship or the relationship in itself.
Yeah, thank you so much for that very nice answer. So
Yes, Neil.
definitely, it makes sense and it makes a lot of meaning to as you say, explain that. So I have another set of questions. Maybe can I pose it now or can I pose it later?
Sure. Let's pause it for now, Maniji. We will discuss that later. And let's work on to some research. So, according to a few research studies in the US, a surgeon who did a research in the year 2023. So it was framed as the issue stark need a presence, lacking social connection, which carries more mortality risk, comparable to smoking up 15 cigarettes a day, which is more dangerous than the well known risks of obesity and physical inactivity. Another research, which was done in the year 2024, a survey found roughly 1 in 5 American adults reports having no close at all, like no close friends. When we say, it means to say that they were comparing 2024 to the 1990s, which was just 2 decades away. And among men under the ages of 30, it is closer to 1 in 4. Coming to another research study, in the year 2025, an APA, which is the American Psychiatric Association, this poll found that one-third of the adults experienced loneliness at least once in a week over the past year. So, adults are actually more likely to interact with people in person, around 49%, daily, than online, which is 36%. Yet, in this particular 16 years, which could have been a degree where technology boomed, it helped them to maintain relationships with people who were online rather than who were in and around them. So, this particular thing takes us to understand if tech is the villain, the technology. Is it a villain? But it is not only the fact that tech is the villain here, it is the way in which it is used. So the data involved shows that young adults aged 18 to 34 report the highest loneliness levels across all age groups. So this is where, for example, people say they are figuring out life, right? So experts here point to remote work, declining community participation, geographic mobility in terms of career, in terms of higher studies, and digital communication replacing face to face contact as key drivers for loneliness. So, upon all this research, there are a few life scenarios, Manishi,
Yeah.
which I will be sharing with the audience. So, the scenario in which you're surrounded but alone, something that we discussed in one of the questions. A working professional attends every team lunch, every group chat, every family function. On paper, their calendar is full, but every conversation stays at a level of weekend plans, small talk, and no one asks how they are actually doing. And they've stopped expecting it, and that's the whole thing. They describe the feeling like they are a guest in their own life. So this illustrates belonging is about depth, not about the frequency of contact. Coming to another scenario, safer with strangers scenario, as we discussed in the second or the third question that was brought up by the audience. When someone finds it easier to open up in an anonymous online community, talking about their anxiety than to their known siblings. With strangers, there is no history to protect, no image to maintain. But with a family, one honest sentence feels like it could unravel years of a carefully maintained role. So, this particular scenario illustrates why we sometimes trust people who know us the least. Let's go to another scenario. A new city scenario. Someone relocates for work or for higher studies. Few months in, they still haven't made a single friend. They are doing everything right, joining classes, saying yes to invites. They keep leaving interactions feeling like they performed a version of themselves rather than connected. So, this particular scenario illustrates that each step and what happens when no one takes it. So, when we're talking about another scenario where an anxious texter, now when we're talking about someone who's anxious, you might think that they have anxiety. Yes, let's keep that in mind. So, if someone sends a message and they don't hear back within a few hours, it spirals them. They keep rereading the text, assuming they said something wrong, becoming distant themselves, as a preemptive defense. This particular scenario illustrates that anxious attachment patterns showing up outside their relationships. So, curating these scenarios were from a bunch of observations that I've done in my research and studies. And the one repair away scenario is a very good example. Let's go through it. A years long friendship has its rupture. One cancelled plan, a single misunderstanding. And instead of fading out, one person sends an honest, slightly awkward message acknowledging it. The friendship not only survives but deepens because repair done imperfectly but sincerely builds more trust than absence of conflict could ever. So when we're talking about this particular scenario, it actually represents how you being an individual for your own self with your imperfections and when you are vocal about it makes more sense than you not doing anything about it. So do we have any other questions, Maniji?
Yeah, I do. I have several, in fact. So maybe I'll start with the first one. See, I notice that I always wait for the other person to reach out first. And why do I do that? What does it cost me?
Okay, when we are talking about um, people waiting for someone's text, this
Right.
usually comes from a fear of being too much or an experience of reaching out and being ignored or rejected. Waiting feels protective because you never initiate, you never risk, and that can hurt because that is the cost that the connection becomes entirely dependent on someone else's timing. But if both the people are actually waiting, then the relationship quietly fades, not because either person didn't care, but because neither of them moved first.
Thank you very much, Varshini ji. So that's answer. I mean, I have another question. Is social media actually making our loneliness worse, or is it that overstated?
So it depends upon how it is actually used. Social media in itself isn't the problem. The issue is when you scroll and that replaces the real interaction rather than it leading to it. So watching other people's lives passively can create a sense of false expectations without any sense of emotional exchange. And that particular connection would actually fade over time. So, since it has to be used as a bridge to make relationships work, now if it's used at a time where people are around you, people who really care for you, and you are scrolling through social media, it becomes a substitute and it deepens isolation. So, yes, Manji.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Yeah, thank you very much. Now, I have one more in the sense. See, if suppose, how can I tell if I am anxious in my relationship or avoidant in my relationships? And does it really affect my friendships too, not just romance?
Of course, attachment patterns show up every single place. It is not just about your romantic relationships. So, anxious attachment often looks like needing frequent reassurance, overanalyzing silence, or fearing that a distance means something is wrong. Whereas an avoidant attachment often looks like pulling back when things get emotionally close, needing space, such as needing space when certain intimacy deepens. It doesn't really require that we look at it from a romantic relationship point of view, but in every single relationship. And most people carry a mix of it. It can shift upon every situation, depending on who they are with and how safe they feel. Yes, Maniji.
Thank you, Varshini ji, for that. Now, one final question I have is it's about, is it actually possible to rebuild a sense of belonging as an adult, or it just gets harder with time?
It's absolutely possible. But it rarely happens through one big moment. A deep talk, a reunion, or a perfect conversation will not just suffice. It is built through small, repeated actions. Being the one to reach out first, or if you're telling someone that you see an unfiltered version of them and showing up again and again, even when it feels easier to say no. Consistency here is more important than intensity, and it is what it turns into this contact becoming a real connection. Yes, Manji.
Thank you very much. So that was my final question. So if you have some closing thing, then we can go over that. Closing
Sure,
summary.
Maniji.
Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. So let me summarize all that we walked through today. This particular passage explores how loneliness and belonging are shaped more by the quality of our relationships than by the number of people around us. Through everyday scenarios, it frequently makes it a point where you build consistency over the time rather than just focusing on one intense situation, right? Meaningful connection is very important, including emotional distance that comes up in middle of your relationships, frequent vulnerability, and making sure you identify the other person's quirks, the way they are, their unique traits. This is all that builds up to a point where you find a true connection with another individual. It also emphasizes that genuine belonging requires authenticity, emotional risk, and anything that would also relate to a point where you make the first move. So, if you're wanting to repair a relationship, a friendship, or something that you have within your family from the past, consistency here is key. Openness, trust, and effort are the perfect blend here that I would say. A few things that we can reflect upon with today's scenarios as they illustrate that loneliness is often an emotional experience rather than a physical one. A person can actually be surrounded by their family, friends, colleagues, and still feel unseen if they are unable to express their true thoughts and emotions. The fear of judgment, rejection, and disrupting their existing role in their life. Like I just mentioned, feeling isolated or feeling like a guest within their own life. So, all these things can prevent people from being vulnerable. So, go ahead, be vulnerable and draw your real connection with people. This particular passage actually highlights how attachment styles also influence your everyday scenarios. So, choose them wisely and make it more secure. Social media further complicates things, but with the right usage, you will be able to draw perfect connections with people, keep them consistent, and have a lovely, lovely social life. That's all from my end, Maniji. Thank you for hosting me, and it is a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Varshini ji, for this very apt topic at the right, at the right moment, because we are all, sometimes we do feel lonely at times, and we need to, we need belongingness, and belongingness is never something we find waiting for us. It's something we have to build, as per your talk. it may, it's we are concluding that it can be concluded that one has to build it one step at a time, one honest step at a time. Thank you for spending and thank you very much, viewers, for coming to the show. And thank you very much, Varshini ji, as well, for having, giving us, talking about this very apt topic. And also, I thank all our viewers for having spent this afternoon with us. So I urge our viewers to go be someone else, someone's reason to feel less alone today. Thank you. Thank you very much. Um, good day to you, Varshini ji. Good evening, good day to all our viewers. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Bye bye. It was a pleasure talking to you, Varshini ji. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Maniji. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.